Right, today's sutta is a very old story, very ancient story of a yaksha. Yaksha is a nature spirit or a kind of cannibal in the ancient days. I think even today, people believe there are in the forest this kind of being or this kind of people. It's probably based on real those tribes in the jungle. This is a famous story of Āḷavaka. This sutta is this file is very long. It's like 35 pages, lots of notes. But the sutta itself is only 5 pages. So we study the sutta. Āḷavaka Sutta. Notice this is from one of our later current works, SD 61.8. So if you see this 60 series, 60, 61, 62, latest is 62, they kind of celebrate the 20 years of full-time sutta work. I'm so happy I managed to keep up with the regular regime of work and producing at least, I think, around 4 volumes every year of the suttas, available freely on our website, dhammafera.org. You can see the address at the bottom of every page. Right? It's all there on the notes that you have. Dhammafera, http://dhammafera.org. Āḷavaka Sutta. Āḷavaka, the one of the forest. Okay, Āḷava means forest. Āḻavaka is a very common name, but in this case, the name of a yaksha, a nature spirit. So we translate it as Āḷavaka Discourse. Now, all these long names you see here, this is the traditional numbering. So you have two sources, the Khuddaka Nikaya, Sutta Nipata, chapter 1, Āḷavaka, the chapter of the snake, Sutta 10. All right. And then you have Samyutta Nikaya, chapter 1, Sagatavagga, meaning the chapter with verses, number 10, subsection 10, if you like. And this is called Yaksha Samyutta. These are all collected suttas about yakshas, number 12. All right. So this is the Burmese, the ancient numbering in Burma, Sri Lanka, and Thailand. The short number here is modern numbering, S1.10 for all these long numbers here. And here's S, and this SN is Sutta Nipata. S is Samyutta 1.10.12. Okay, you can see 1, 10, 12 here. The Āḷavaka Sutta, and then the numbers appear here again. Okay, this number here, 31 to 33, are the paging in the Pali Text Society in case you want to check the Pali. So SN 1.10/ pages 31 to 33, and it equals the same. The sutta repeats itself as S10.12, which is found in volume 1 of the Pali Text Society, Pali, page 213 to 215. Okay, so, and you see the little stars here. So this means these are the verses. Sutta Nipata verses 181 to 192, and in the Samyutta is verses 846 to 857. The theme, a ferocious cannibal awakens to the teaching of the Buddhas. So here we see how this very fierce demon-like being, his heart softening with the Buddha's teaching, right? So I'm going to summarize the story for you before we go on to the sutta. Let me just tell the story. So this is an ancient story. Around the Buddha's time, there was a king. And this king, as you know, young king, he likes to go hunting and challenging his other courtiers to catch a deer and so on. And he got lost, and he came to this place where this yaksha lives in the deep forest. And as you know, these yakshas, they're cannibals. So he wants to kill the king. He says, I'm going to kill you. I'm going to eat you up. All right. So, of course, this king begs for mercy and says, please don't kill me. I will, provide you with a person for you to eat if you like, So to cut the long story short, this yaksha said, okay, you make sure you do that. Because if you don't, then I will look for you. Something like that. Yeah. So this king sends some criminals, these nasty criminals, which sends the great way of like a capital punishment. Sends these criminals to one person to this yaksha. The story goes that this yaksha is very fearsome. You can see at the start of this our website. I mean this Zoom the opening page. You can see this very fearsome looking yaksha. This is the Thai version, right? And so you have this different Burma. They have their own kind of art, and the Sinhalese have their own art, but they all look fierce with sharp tusks, teeth. Apparently, it is said that these people, when they see this yaksha, they're so terrified, and their whole body soften, becomes soft like butter. That's the story goes. So, of course, ancient stories. I mean, it could mean that people get so terrified they just collapse, on the spot. They fell down like butter if you lie in the hot sun, something like that. So you must give all this what's called license to these ancient stories. And by the way, all these stories, they are stories, to entertain the ancient Indians. They don't have TV and internet like we have today. So there's always this dramatic storytelling, and they will just love listening to all these stories. So you don't have to believe this story. They kind of present us with some interesting ideas. We all like watching all those Star Wars and so on. I mean, we just watch and we enjoy it when we watch TV. So treat these stories like that. Then in the end, you find there are some teachings there. Those are what you follow, the teachings, right? So the stories are just to entertain us, to capture our attention, and then comes the Dharma, all right? And people love these stories. You tell children, they want to listen, and then you tell them the moral of the story, the good things that you should do as a result, as the meaning or moral of the story. All right, so this king has been sending all these criminals. So in the end, the jails are all empty. There's no more bad guys. So then there's a bit of humor in this story also. Then the kind of this the city guard, or if you like, some kind of like the head police, the police head of the city, he goes around leaving some valuable stuff along the street, hoping that somebody would steal it, and then they will catch this guy and then hand it over to the yaksha. So everyone knows that, so they dare not steal. So everybody was kind of very well behaved, So it's an interesting way to see how this kind of changed people in that ancient city. So anyway, there is this dramatic turn. So in the end, the king had no one else to send as offering to this yaksha. So he discussed with his city guard and said, why can't we have no one to send now? So the guard said, well, okay, why don't we send these old folks, seniors, to the yaksha? And the king said, oh, no, I think we better not, because the family is not going to be happy. And then the city guard suggested, maybe you should send the children to this yaksha, because sometimes parents they get very fed up with their kids, so probably they're happy you get rid of them. So anyway, in the end, so when the mothers, especially pregnant women, they heard all these fearful these things that are going to happen, they just fled, they ran away. So there were no such babies or young children to be given as sacrifices. So the king was a bit scared. So, what do I do now? Now we have this turning point in the story, this really dramatic development. 12 years pass, and this king has a more or less a 12-year-old son. It looks like that's all there's left to offer. And this is the turning point. The king was ready to even sacrifice his own son, the future king. For some, and this person, this boy, is a very special person. He has done lots of good deeds in his past life, and his name is very special. I will tell you the name later at the right times, not to spoil the story. So the king kind of said, well, if he has no choice, he's going to offer his own son to this yaksha, and the yaksha is going to eat him up. And that's when the Buddha, early in his meditation, early morning meditation, sees this rather unjust event that's going to happen. It's going to create bad karma for the king and bad karma for the yaksha, and of course this poor child will die. So the Buddha is going to intervene and create good karma for everybody. So you see here the Buddha is proactive. He is kind of actually going out there to help people. So what the king does is, rather the Buddha, what he does, he goes to the yaksha's abode. He has this really grand place to live in the forest. But this yaksha has got powers. Okay, he's able to fly in the air. He's got psychic powers. So he lived in this really beautiful place. He's got his slaves and women and treasure and stuff there. What's interesting at that time, this yaksha, his name is Āḷavaka, was away in the Himalayas attending a yaksha meeting. So there was nobody in his abode, in his home. And there is another interesting development in that part where two more yaksas who are good and converted by the Buddha, they meet him and tell him, say, oh, how lucky you are. You know, do you know that right now the Buddha is kind of in your house and teaching your household the Dhamma? Of course, Āḷavaka does not know this. When he heard this, he was very angry, but he kept quiet about it. And there are other details you can read in the introduction here about this part of the story. So I'm going to just skip this part to save time. And then this yaksha Āḷavaka flies back to his house, confront the Buddha. And this is where our sutta begins. The Buddha sits on the throne of the yaksha. Can you imagine that, right? So he is not afraid at all. But there's a bit more detail. The commentary tells us how the Buddha did this. The Buddha comes to the Āḷavaka's abode, and there is this guard at the door, at the gate. And his name is Gadraba. Now, Gadraba actually means donkey. So you can see here we have almost like non-human beings involved, okay? Almost like those Chinese stories you see about monkey and so on. So, of course, these people, I mean, these beings, they're not as ferocious as Āḷavaka. So he saw the Buddha and coming, he says, oh, why do you come here, blessed one? You should not be here, you know, this yaksha is very fierce. And the Buddha tells him, well, don't worry, you know. So anyway, 3 times Gadraba tells once the Buddha says, okay. Then Gadraba tells the Buddha, now, you know, I have to inform him. So you do what you like, but I have to inform my master, Āḷavaka. So he flies to the Himalayas and to inform Āḷavaka. So that's another kind of confirmation to Āḷavaka that the Buddha is present in the abode of Āḷavaka. And he goes in, the Buddha goes into the abode, this beautiful palace-like place. And Āḷavaka's seat is kind of a magical place with jewels and all kinds of bright stuff there, and he sits on it. And then all the household ladies and beings there come around the Buddha, and he teaches the Dhamma, and are very happy. The Buddha tells them, so you know, you all are, because of your good karma, to the extent you have done good, you are here serving this Āḷavaka, and you are alive, and so on. So the Buddha talks in that way, in positive ways, and everybody was happy, you know, listening to him. And this is when Āḷavaka comes home and confronts the Buddha. And this is where we will look at our sutta. So remember, all these other long stories have all been translated for you in the introduction. So just read it up. Right, let's look at the Āḷavaka Sutta now. It's page 31. Okay, so Āḷavaka Sutta. The Āḷavaka discourse S110 equals the same as SN110 rather. SN110 equals S10.12. Thus have I heard. At one time, the Blessed One was staying in Āḷavī, in the abode of the yaksha Āḷavaka. You notice the names here are kind of very, very similar, right? So this is, it suggests it's a forested area. Āḷavī means the forest, right? And then I think the king also was called Āḷavaka, belonging to Āḷavī, right? And of course, the yaksha also is called Āḷavaka. It's like the yaksha of Āḷavī, something like that. So you have this kind of common names. Then the yaksha Āḷavaka approached the Blessed One and said to him, "Get out, Awuso," because he said in a fierce way. Awuso means my friend. It's like equals, calling each other friend. Okay? So he orders the Buddha, get out, very rude. He tells the Buddha to get off the throne, to get out of his abode. Now, the picture we get from this kind of conversation is that it seems as if the abode is small. Here, probably, get out just means the Buddha kind of was near the doorway, perhaps near the entrance to the abode. So the Buddha quietly moves out and stands at the entrance. So the Buddha replies, "All right, friend," the Buddha said, and he went out. And stops there. Now, this is the interesting part. He said he's not actually chasing the Buddha away. He was trying the Buddha's patience. So the Buddha goes out there and stands. And then he says, "Come in, recluse." Notice this time he says, "Come in, recluse." So he's commanding the Buddha. So get out, come in. And Buddha calmly replies, "All right, friend," the Blessed One said, and he went back in. That's the first time. The second time, the yaksha Āḷavaka approached the Blessed One and said to him, "Get out, recluse." "All right, friend," the Blessed One said, and he went out again, second time. And then when he's out, the yaksha says, "Come in, recluse." "All right, friend," the Buddha said, and he went in, right? So here you see the Buddha probably smiling, very good natured, just obeying whatever the yaksha wants him to do. So here you see the Buddha is being very humble. So that's the second time. A third time, the yaksha Āḷavaka said to the Blessed One, "Get out, recluse." Now you notice all these are in italics, because all these are repeated above. Once you see this kind of italics, it means that passages have been repeated. And here you are, the same thing. Now in some translation, especially the commercial translation, they put ellipses, 3 dots, and you got to fill it out for yourself. And sometimes, very often, we don't know what to fill out. Yeah, everything is given to you in full, but they're italicized, so you know they are repeat passages or peyala, Bali is peyala. So, all right, friend, the Blessed One said, and he went out. And then, "Come in, recluse," commanded the yaksha. Again, the Buddha gently replied, "All right, friend." And the Blessed One said, and he went in. Now, 3 times. You begin to wonder, right? The Buddha does not do this sort of thing more than 3 times, usually 2 times. And the third time, the Buddha will say something, make a decision. But here, 3 times, the Buddha just follow what Āḷavaka tells him to do. Now, a 4th time. This is very special. It's the 4 times. A 4th time, the yaksha Āḷavaka said to the Blessed One, "Get out, recluse." Okay, now something different. Look at number 6 now. I won't go out, I would so. Do whatever you must do. So there you see the Buddha was not. So here we know the Buddha did not do this all out of fear. So in this sense, you can see this passage is like it's like the Buddha's humor. He humors Āḷavaka, not out of fear, but because of what is going to come. The Buddha is like preparing the stage to teach the Dhamma. He is, in a sense, calming Āḷavaka down. It's very interesting. The Buddha was a great psychologist in a sense, yeah. So he's trying to calm Āḷavaka first. Can you imagine? I mean, the Buddha coming in straight away and say, "Hey, I want to teach you Dhamma." It won't happen that way. So here he's gently showing Āḷavaka that he's willing to listen to him. And so you can see Āḷavaka also say, "Hey, it's not bad. This guy is listening to me." So he begins to like feel some respect even for the Buddha. But the 4th time, the Buddha says, "Nope, that's as far as you go. I can't do this. No more, no 4th time. So do what you like." Now, the fun part is Āḷavaka did not do anything to the Buddha. He did not harm the Buddha. He couldn't anyway. And I think he either sensed it or he just felt this is a very interesting person who is so brave, not afraid of me, and engaging. So you can imagine, naturally, the yaksha would go on kind of responding to the Buddha. So what does he say? This time it's a new development. He says, 7, I'll ask you a question, recluse. If you do not answer me, I will drive you insane, I'll drive you mad, or split your heart, and grab you by the feet and hurl you across the Ganges. Well, he's powerful, you know, he's got all these powers. He will just kill people. This crushing the heart, you often see in the movies, you know, the stories of these fairy tale stories. These these beings are very powerful, they crush people's heart. So you get this from the ancient literature. It's common to many ancient literature. So basically, the yaksha is threatening to kill the Buddha. The Buddha calmly replies. That's number 8. Verse 8. I do not see anyone in this world, Abuso, with his devas, Mara and Brahma, in this generation with recluses and Brahmins, its devas and humans, who could drive me insane or split my heart, or grab me by the feet and hurl me across the Ganges. But ask whatever you want, Abuso. Okay, so here we see the stage is set, really dramatic moment. The highlight of the sutta, they're going to be riddles, a set of 3 or 4 riddles going to ask the Buddha. And in the second part of this study, I'm going to tell you why Āḷavaka asked these riddles. Where did he get these riddles from? Now, you find riddles from many ancient stories. One of the best known riddles in the West is that of the Sphinx asking the Greek hero, I forgot, Oedipus, I think. So this young man, Oedipus, was going back to the city. I'm not mistaken, it was Thebes, I think. Thebes or Thebes. So this yaksha guards he kind of lurks along the jungle path. You know, those days, to go from one city to another, you go to this deep jungle. So the Sphinx is like half like a lion with a lion body and a woman's head. And he devours people who are unable to answer her riddle correctly. And the riddle was what goes by 4 in the morning, 2 at noon, and 3 in the evening. And no one could answer this, and they got eaten up, they got killed. But Oedipus knew the answer. He simply says, a human being How is a human being on four legs in the morning? Well, as a baby, you crawl on fours. And then at noon, that is in manhood, you walk on twos. And then in the evening, in old age, you walk on three with a walking stick. Right? So you got the right answer. And he was the one, I think from the story, who killed this fearsome Sphinx. All right. Of course, this Sphinx is a very famous figure. You can see the picture of the Sphinx in the ancient Egypt, the lion sitting down and this huge big stone lion beside the pyramids. All right. All right, let's look at the verses now. So starting from section 9. Now, just to save time, I won't be reading the Pali this time. I just read the translation unless I need to explain certain words. So here we begin with the first riddle of the yaksha. You can see a number 1, 2, 3, 4. All right. What here is a person's best wealth? And number 2, riddle 2. What well practice brings happiness? Riddle 3. What is truly the sweetest of taste? How lives the one whose life they say is best? These are truly riddles, right? So, I mean, you can ask anyone. It's not easy to answer these things. Here, the Buddha answering in terms of the Dhamma. So, to number 1, the Buddha replies to the question, the riddle, what here is a person's best wealth? Faith is here a person's best wealth. When you have faith in yourself, in the Dhamma, then you will do all the good because you know you can do it, for example. Yeah. And number 2, what well practice brings happiness? And here, of course, the Buddha simply answers, the Dhamma, well practice, brings happiness. Dhamma here means all the good things like keeping the precepts, keeping your mind calm and clear, and then cultivating wisdom brings you true happiness. What is truly the sweetest of taste? Here, of course, it's not just the taste in the mouth, it's taste, broadly speaking, metaphorically even. Truth is truly the sweetest or the best of taste, right? Because truth makes everything that, I mean, it helps you to see things clearly and truly. So in that sense, it is beautiful, it is sweet. How lives one whose life, they say, is the best? What kind of person is the best by his life? Living by wisdom, they say, one's life is best. Right? So you see here, the Buddha is giving answer in a truly Dhamma-spirited way, in the ultimate sense. Right, next, 4 more riddles. So it's a set of 12 riddles, I think. Riddle 5. How does one cross the flood? And this is famous. No? You see the Pali, Katangsu tarati ogang, Katangsu tarati annavang, Katangsu dukkang accheti, Katangsu parisucchati. How does one cross the flood? So this yaksha doesn't even know what it means. You know, what flood, you know? So he's asking this riddle. That's why he asks. He doesn't know the answers to this. How does one cross the sea or the ocean, if you like? Annava. Now, Annava is also a Thai name, you know, because in Thai it's pronounced as Anno, okay? It means the sea. I had one teacher in Bangkok by this name. How does one overcome suffering? You know, this is of course very Dhamma-based. Yeah? How is one fully purified? So we come to the Dhamma now. So notice this is from SN33. It's a cross-reference here. All right, let's see. What's the answer here? Look further down. By faith, one crosses the flood. Again, here the flood refers to defilements, all those things that cause us to suffer and remain in samsara. Faith is the starting point of learning the Dhamma. The fact that you all are gathered here is because you all have faith. It starts from there. And then from there, you seek the truth and so on. And then by heedfulness, one crosses the sea. Once, in other words, you carefully, mindfully cross the ocean, cross the sea. By effort or energy, one overcomes suffering. Right? We work hard to overcome suffering. And for what? For wisdom. By wisdom, one is fully purified. Suffering is gone. So you can see these are the questions seems difficult, but once you hear the answer, they look good. The questions become very easy. Now you've actually not covered 13 questions. How does one gain wisdom? How does one find wealth? How does one win fame? How does one bind friends? And passing from this world to the next, how does one not sorrow? Okay, this is more broad, very common to a lot of people. They ask this question. How does one gain wisdom? The Buddha answers, keeping faith in the Arahat's Dharma, right? We are faithful to the Buddha's teaching, basically. Then wisdom comes. Sila, Samadhi, Panya. Moral training, restraining body and speech, training the mind to becoming clear, and wisdom arises through the Buddha's teaching. How does one find wealth? For the attainment, this one is continuous for attainment of nirvana. Okay, let's go further down. Yes, attainment of nirvana, where's that? One gains wisdom from a desire to learn. But this is quite direct. Huh? This is a beautiful line. It's really wonderful for children, and even for any of us. One gains wisdom from a desire to learn. The fact that we want to learn, sooner or later, as we age, because of impermanence, we will grow wise. Wise means you see how the knowledge applies in reality. The one who's heedful and astute or keen-eyed, doing what is proper and dutiful. Dutiful means keeping to the rules of the training. One with initiative finds wealth. That means you put in effort first without even being told by other people. You know it needs to be done, you do it. By truthfulness, one gains fame, right? To be honest and truthful. With wisdom, of course. We don't just say something true to hurt people, but some timely truth, useful truth, well-spoken, worth remembering. This is another beautiful line. How to make friends? By giving, one binds friends. By being generous, one binds friends. Dana. So you see the basic Buddhist training for lay people. The first virtue is dana, and sila, moral virtue, then dana, bhavana, cultivation of the mind. Then when passing from this world to the next, how does one not sorrow? So this question is repeated to keep the poem kind of balanced. Answer, who has these four qualities? The householder who is a faithful seeker. Notice the householder who seeks the truth with faith. Truth, dharma, steadfastness, charity. Steadfastness means you're firm in your way, you don't give up. Truth, you must know what is true. Dharma, what frees the mind. Steadfastness, your determination, and practicing generosity, charity, kindness combined. That person, this person, does not sorrow when it passes on. So this is another way of keeping to the Buddhist training here. When passing from this world to the next, how does one not sorrow? So this is a repetition of the like a what they call it, a chorus. The question is repeated. Okay, that is 16. Let's go on to 17 now, further down. Okay, come now, ask the others too, says the Buddha. The many recluses and Brahmins, whether there exists here anything better than truth, self-control, charity, or patience. Self-control refers to moral virtue also, right? Keeping the precepts, controlling body and speech. So now the Buddha is adding extra teachings. Yeah? Now, then Āḷavaka continues, it says, why now need I ask the many recluses and Brahmins? So he's replying to what the Buddha just said. Today I have understood the good pertaining to future lives. Now, so here is remarkable because you see the yaksha changing his tone. You can say by this time he was converted. And it is said he became a stream winner. So probably at this point, now that he has heard all the answers and he is convinced, his mind changes and he becomes a follower. Then he's very happy. He says, indeed, it was for my sake that the Buddha came to stay at Āḷavī. Today I have understood where what is given bears great fruit. Okay, so now what has happened is the Buddha has linked this yaksha's past karma. He has helped this good karma ripen. Where was this good karma? Where did this good karma come from? It was in the previous Buddha's time, Kassapa Buddha's time. This yaksha was belonged to another family. His parents were devout followers of the Buddha Kassapa. So they bring him along, visit the Buddha. And the Buddha Kassapa taught these riddles to the parents. And the parents remembered these teachings, and then the parents taught these riddles to their child, Āḷavaka, in the past life, in Kassapa Buddha's time, the Buddha before our Buddha. But this young man, after a while, he forgot all. He only wrote the questions so that he at least don't forget the question, but he's forgotten the answers. So now in this life, last life, well, his last life before the Buddha, he remembers these questions. So it's the right time. When he meets the Buddha, this past karma came back, this past good karma came back. So notice even in someone so nasty and evil like the yaksha, this good karma comes back with the Buddha. So he asked this question and he got the answer, and then he's back to like his parents who met the past Buddha. And now he has met the present Buddha and he's very happy. He has become a stream winner. So now this last verse, he's very happy. He's witnessing the Dharma and he says, now I will travel about from village to village, from city to city, paying homage to the awakened one and to the Dharma that's truly good. So now he's becoming like a missionary. He goes around and talk good about the Buddha and his teaching. And the Āḻavaka Sutta ends here. Just nice the timing, eh? So you got 15 minutes to ask questions.
Thank you, Dr. Piya, for the teaching.
Okay.
Brothers and sisters, if you have any question, you can unmute and ask your question, or you can type it in the chat box. At the moment, there is no question in the chat box.
It's all right. Just give your time.
Hello, Brother Piya. Dikshu here.
Okay, get you.
Thank you again for your sharing. I think at the start of this sharing session, you said something about the young prince and that you didn't want to reveal his name.
Oh, yes. Thank you
so
for
I'm just
reminding.
curious, yeah, the significance of that point.
Yeah. As I told you, there's that part of the story which I didn't tell because of shortage of time, but it's recorded in the introduction here before in your notes. So this the climax for the king is when he has to bring his child to present to the yaksha to be eaten. Can you imagine how terrible it is? In fact, the king did not go. He just couldn't do it. So he was brought by the ministers and so on. So this big crowd fearfully go to the forest to present this poor little kid, 12 years old. But remember, this happened after yaksha has heard the Buddha, and now he's a changed person. So this part is very humorous because there he is outside, and he's meeting all these the king's people, and the child offered to him to be eaten. And he felt so embarrassed now. How can I eat this boy who's harmless? And now I think he's a stream winner, So he just did not know what to say. And then, of course, the Buddha kind of helped him out. The Buddha give a kind of talk to the crowd, And so the army, I think the soldiers, handed the boy to the yaksha, and the yaksha was embarrassed, doesn't know what to do because he can't eat this boy now. And then the yaksha kind of decides to give up his bad karma and says, "Oh, blessed one, here you are, take this boy." So he passed this boy to the Buddha. So this is how he got his name. Okay? He's passed from one hand to the yaksha's hand, and from yaksha's hand to the Buddha's hand. So he was called Handy. In English, you translate his name as Handy. And in Pali, what is Handy in Pali? Hand is, what is a Pali word for hand? Anyone remember your Pali? Basic Pali? Hatta, right? Hatta also means elephant, by the way, but because the elephant has got the trunk is like a hand, So his name is Hattaka. Hattaka means one who is handed from hand to hand. So that's how he got his name, Hattaka. Then later, Hattaka grows up, becomes a prince, and he meets the Buddha. And there's a very famous sutta called the Āḷavaka Sutta, where he meets the Buddha and he asks the Buddha, "It's so cold and windy out here. How come you are sitting in the open with just a robe? Isn't it uncomfortable? I live in a palace, It's nice and warm." Then the Buddha asked him, "Are you happy in the palace, living Then he said, "Oh, coming to think of it, no, I'm not happy at all. The women are noisy, and there are politics, and we have to go to war." And the Buddha said, "Yes, but here I'm sitting, I'm very happy." So this is called the Āḷavaka Sutta, which have been translated in the SD series. You can get up, Āḷavaka Sutta. All right. Thank you, Getchu, for that question. That's the missing part of the story. Well, you do listen. That's good. Sadhu. No? Okay. Any other question?
Yes, Father Piya, there's a question from Dr. Willie Japaris.
Yeah, sure. Yes, Willie.
Mr. Piya Tan, would you please explain why story about Āḷavaka is put in Buddha Jaya Mangala Gata?
Oh, why is put there, is it? Or why is it not put there? What's the question again?
Why is it this story about
Āḷavaka,
yeah, is put in Buddha Jaya Mangala Gata?
Yeah. Okay, so here, the idea is to reflect on the Buddha's compassion, and also to reflect on the fact that even really bad people, like Angulimala, could change to become good with the Dharma through the Buddha. And Āḷavaka, this ferocious cannibal who goes around eating people, he's able, through his past good connection, able to convert. So this idea of even the bad can become good. So the Jaya Mangala, joyful victory, blessed victory. The whole idea of the Buddha arising in the world is because there are bad people, there are ignorant people, right? So, and because of the Buddha, ignorant people, bad people, they can become good. They can change. There is hope in that sense through self-understanding, self-knowledge, and self-liberation, right? So that's the reflection in Jaya Mangala Gata. Yeah, the first verse opens with Mara coming to threaten the Buddha. This is a late verse, kind of almost modern verse, probably written in Sri Lanka, I think. So they kind of select certain key stories for reflection. It's a kind of like a Dharma reflection, if you like. Okay, any other questions?
Thank you, Brother Piya. The next question by Dr. Willie.
Yeah, okay.
And it is said that Āḷavaka is overcome by patience, not by ED.
Sorry, Āḷavaka?
Āḷavaka is overcome by patience, not by ED.
Oh. No, I don't know why you asked the question. There's no mention of psychic power here. ED is psychic power. In fact, if you look at the sutta, the Buddha answers the questions of Āḷavaka one by one. Okay, so you can see that it's wisdom because the Buddha knows the answer. But in the earlier part of the story, the Buddha kind of gently, gradually softened Āḷavaka's heart by being totally patient, not only patient, but humble. The Buddha did just what Āḷavaka tells him to do. So that's patience, right? And also humble because he did up to 3 times. You know, the 4th time he said, no, but do what you like. Okay, very calmly he tells this. Here's Āḷavaka. So yes, there is patience, there is humility, and towards the end there is wisdom. Okay, any other question?
Yes, by Dr. Yuli, he asked, is it Kanti Sudanta Vidina, not Idi Bisankata Mano?
Just read the Pali again, Kanti.
Kanti Sudanta Vidina.
Vidina. Okay, that means by way of patience, the yaksha becomes well tamed. Vidina means by that method. Okay, Kanti of course means patience, and Sudanta means well tamed. Okay, so the keyword is patience there. Okay. Anyway, like I said, that's not sutta. It's almost a modern composition, or it's like a hymn by the Sinhalese. All right, any other question?
Father Piya, there is no question in the chat box.
It's okay. Just wait a while. We have about less than 5 minutes now. So this, remember, there are lots of other notes you can read for yourself. You can read the story is given you in quite some detail here. Hataka's story is found in 2.2.4, 224. I think in section 2. 2.2 is Āḷavaka, the stream winner, so you can read all about him there. Okay, so there's lots of interesting notes here. Why Āḷavaka asked the questions and so on. Okay, any other question? So remember, if you want the latest version of any sutta, just message right now myself, and we'll send it to you. Yeah, because we keep updating and correcting the typos and so on. Sometimes new ideas come, so we add in for better study. Okay, I think we've got 2 more minutes. Any questions?
Brother Piya,
Yes.
in the sutta itself, there was a distinction made between truth and the Dhamma.
Okay, let's get you right.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
So I'm just curious, is the Dhamma not about the truth?
Yes, you can translate Dhamma in so many ways. Because Dhamma is one of those really polysemic Pali where it's got so many possible meanings. Truth, of course, Satya is quite clearer, I mean, narrower than Dhamma. Yeah, you find different contexts, different words will be used. And so it's quite tricky sometimes. So this is where your skill as a Dhamma student, Dhamma teacher comes in. And you find, for example, in the Satipatthana, the fourth Satipatthana is Dhammanupassana. So Dhammanupassana, it can mean Dhamma, the teaching. It can also mean Dhamma as the mind objects, and it can also mean Dhamma as realities. So for me, I like the last translation, realities, because that's one we actually reflect on as we meditate, So I've written about this and posted it on our Facebook, so you can just read it up. The first series on the four Satipatthanas already put out in the Facebook. I have now just put the second series, the first one, on Satipatthana as renunciation. You see, renunciation is not just shaving your hair, wearing a robe, and then not keeping the Vinaya. That's not renunciation. Anyone can renounce. The true renunciation is giving up killing, giving up stealing, giving up sexual misconduct, giving up lying, giving up drunkenness, and all the negative emotions. That's the real renunciation. When you practice breath meditation, you breathe in, you breathe out, you renounce the breath. What you take in, you must give back. That is renunciation. So I've written a series of short passages on the four Satipatthanas as the true practice of renunciation. So the first one is already posted on our Facebook. Yeah? This reflection on Satipatthana is found in the Sāla Sutta, SD 62.15, Sāla Sutta S47.4. Okay, so this just to inform you in case you're interested. Yeah. All right.
Sorry, Brother Piya.
Yes, yes.
What was the sutta number again?
Okay, this is not out yet. If you want an early version, please message me. I'll send it to you once I've done it. Maybe you can proofread it if you like. But this is what's called a draft version. All right, 62.
There's one question.
62.15, yeah? Okay. Yes.
All right, thanks.
Question?
There's one question by Brother Tom, Brother Piya.
Yeah, sure.
Did the Buddha often use storytelling as a means of conveying the Dhamma?
Oh, yes.
As opposed to straight out discussing the Dhamma?
Oh, yeah, because it depends on the crowd. You find I think if we really look at historical development, in the early years, first 10 years definitely, first 5 years, when the arahats, the many arahats, the Buddha used less stories, more direct communication, because the audience was ready. The audience, they were wise people, they were great practitioners, so the Buddha used less stories. Then later, when Buddhism became very well-known, very popular, you get great crowd, especially during the middle period and then the last period. Remember, the Buddha taught for 45 years, So the last 20 years, definitely, lots of stories. So the Buddha would use Jataka stories. The Buddha would use stories the Indians knew very well about and give them a new touch. It's like using the mass media, if you like. So the Buddha gave deep meaning to those stories we used to entertain the Indian people, right? Stories about yakshas and demons and devas and Brahma and so on. So I'll say yes, Buddha used stories, but he also reminds us stories are stories. So we look at stories to feel happy about it, and then later say, okay, what's the story about? What do I practice? If someone like this yaksha can change, I'm sure I can change too. If someone like Angulimala, the serial killer, can become an arahat, I can become better too. So you have this kind of inspiration. Stories inspire us. Even today, we love stories. You find that we have a lot of good literature in English, which are stories, which are fiction. Right? And they're beautiful to read. They enrich our minds and our hearts. All right. Any more questions? Urgent questions?
Brother Piya, Brother Maya would like to ask one question verbally.
Okay. Yes, sure.
Yes. So, Brother Piya, I wonder sometimes that Buddha, in all his previous eons, like before becoming the Buddha, he cultivated all these paramis, right? So
Yeah.
that one day he might become the Buddha. And it was for such a long time.
Yes.
And then in the last lifetime, when he becomes the Buddha, and then he helps out people like Angulimala and Āḷavaka, and people who without his help might not have had the opportunity to come out of that negativity and
Yes.
get
Very true.
stream entry or so on. So what I think of is sometimes that Buddha did so much for such a long time, all these eons. He could not have done this just to live as the Buddha for only 45 years, because that was all the time he lived as Buddha, right?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, of course. You would think a little broadly. Yeah, the 45 years is the grand finale, right? Even before that, he was doing good as a bodhisattva, and that was teaching him also, right? Because he was not awakened yet, but he was using common sense, if you like, right? So you don't really need to be Buddha to know what's good, what's bad. If you observe and you're a good person, even not awakened, killing is wrong, right? So this when, of course, people who want power, life doesn't matter. In a sense, young people, they be killed in their name, in a battle which they must fight, but they just don't care when someone dies. So this is where the Buddha often says, wow, the life of a king is terrible, such bad karma, because it kills people just like that, So those karma are really bad when you send people to die in battlefields and things like that, mass murder, right? So nowadays we don't talk about it, we just read in the papers and we are titillated by it. So all these are not good karma. So let's hope some really strong morally politicians with moral fiber would help to bring peace back. At this current moment, we're living like really very low dark period in our history for this few years. Hopefully things will change. No? So a lot of metta. No? Yes.
So King Bimbisara was a stream winner, right? And yet he ruled the kingdom as well. So how would he would have done it? He still criminals would be there, and he would met out probably punishments.
Yes. Yeah. King Bimbisara was a tragic king, and his own son killed him. But he did go whatever he could. He was the first king. In a sense, he was the first king who started the greatest Indian Empire in due course. That is the Maurya Empire. So it started, in a sense, with Bimbisara, maybe Bimbisara's father even. Then later, in the Āḷavaka Sutta, you find Bimbisara was reborn, not in the Brahma world, but he was reborn among the 4 great kings. Not even in Tawatingsa. It's almost like the Buddha is saying that, you see, this is the fate of kings. They're not reborn very high. They're reborn among other kings like them, you see. So he is reborn among those devas who guard Tawatingsa. It's not in Tawatingsa. But it's a beautiful story, because in the Āḷavaka Sutta, you find Bimbisara, who is one of the followers of the 4 great kings, says that he wants to gain arahathood in that life. He wants a stream winner, and he wants to become a what do you call it, the once returner, and even attain higher in that life. So it's a beautiful story about this tragic figure called Bimbisara.
So in the Āḷavaka Sutta, does that also mention how he ruled justly as a stream mentor king?
I think not much, but just probably some cross reference, I think. I can't remember exactly, but I think it's in the notes that he did.
If I would like to learn more, Brother Piya, how should I go about it?
Yes, you begin with the Āḷavaka. I don't know whether you have proofread the Āḷavaka.
I have, I think.
Okay, then you just look through it again, and you might find something there in the notes. Okay. You can look up Bimbisara in the DPPN, Dictionary of Pali Proper Name. You might find some cross references there.
Okay.
I don't know whether any scholars have done a monogram monograph on Bimbisara or not. But I'm sure some Indian historians may have written about him because he is one of the most important early kings who's at the root of the Indian imperial system later on.
Okay.
Okay. All right. So I think.
But sorry.
Yeah. All right, sure.
My original question. So Buddha did all this for such a long time. I mean, Bodhisattva. But as the Buddha, only 45 years. So that is what I was not able to really answer for.
Okay. Imagine the Buddha like someone who's doing a PhD in suffering. He has to go through, technically speaking, all the kinds of sufferings so that he knows what he's talking about. Can you imagine that how long that takes? All right.
Yes.
We are not talking about our neighbor or someone we know, but this person who is willing to spend so many lives learning. All right. And in one of the writings, I think it's in about aspiration to Buddhahood. You know that one in the first. I think it's the first one. Yeah, it's 62.1. I think. I mean, not 1.1, 62.11. When people aspire to be a Buddha, basically they're aspiring to face any kind of suffering. So they know what it is, they know what they're talking about, and when you come to them, they know what you're talking about. So that's how they can, help us. But remember, the Buddha also wants to get out of suffering. So the last 45 years of the Buddha's life is like to say goodbye to us. To say, okay, I've done my job, so now I'm going to attain nirvana myself, something like that. Okay, of course, the Buddha wouldn't speak like that, but I'm telling you something like that's my understanding, that the Buddha himself also is a happy person, that he has stopped killing, so he becomes Buddha. In celebration, the grand finale, the sun also sets in the tent. All right?
I will go take our group photo.
Okay, now comes this wonderful final moment when we reflect on this great mental karma we've created. We have renounced the world for this 1.5 hours. This is a wonderful opportunity to recall this good deed we have done. We have recited the 3 refuges, the 5 precepts. We have done some meditation. We have listened to the Dhamma. We have asked questions. So remember this wonderful moment of peace and wisdom that you have experienced and accumulated. By the power of all these good deeds, tell yourself, may I be well, may I be happy, may it is you. You are saying it to yourself. Send your kind thoughts to your loved ones, those who are important to you, your good teachers, and your friends, and so on, whoever is important to you. Send your kind thoughts to them. This is the right time. And before we close, we show our gratitude and respect to the 3 jewels. We bow before the Buddha, the Dhamma, and the Sangha. We use the Pali words for this. Arahang Samma Sambuddho Bhagava Buddhang Bhagavantang Abhivademi. Swakato Bhagavata Dhammo Dhammang Namasami. Supatipanno Bhagavato Āḷavaka Sangho Sanghang Namami. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.